If I were to ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would your answer be? If you're young, this might be really inspiring and fill you with all the possibilities. When I was younger, I really wanted to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Hasn't happened yet, but I still think I might have a shot. I haven't quite given up just yet. But maybe you're at the stage where this question's a little bit more intimidating because you're thinking about this really seriously. And you have some big decisions that could impact, the rest of your life. Or perhaps you're at the point where you are further along in your life and maybe this question doesn't apply to you anymore because you're already grown up, whatever that means. If I were to ask you a slightly different question, like who were you designed to be, would your answer be different? The Bible talks a lot about how we were created, our relationship with God, and His plans for our lives. And in fact, in Ephesians 2, it says, even before we were born, God planned in advance our destiny and the good works we would do to fulfill it. And for me, this is a source of encouragement. I have to admit, knowing that God has plans for us is very different than knowing the plans God has for us. And honestly, there's a few challenges in discovering who God designed us to be. One is our culture, the world around us. Our culture is more than willing to provide all the input that it can on who we are designed to be, like successful, good-looking, wealthy, happy, athletic. And all of those things aren't inherently bad, but when we pursue them with the focus our culture suggests, they become synonyms for more. The pursuit of more is not only really exhausting, but it leaves us feeling empty. And the other is ourselves. The view we have of ourselves can look radically different from what God's view of us is. Have you ever heard of the phrase, you are your own worst enemy? Oftentimes our focus in pursuing our own plans for our life can distract us from the signals that God is sending us about His plans for us that can lead us to something much bigger than anything we ever imagined. And I want you to know something. God has a plan for your life. And I know you're probably like, well, what is it? Well, I can't be the one to tell you because I'm still trying to figure out what the plan is for my life. But I have learned that to hear from God, I have to put myself in a posture to hear from Him. And here are two things that have helped me hear from God that I know will work for you as well. The first is to pray about it. Ask God to share His perspective with you. Jesus is very clear about the power of prayer. In Matthew 21, He says, everything you pray for, with the fullness of faith, you will receive. And that happens when we align our hearts with His. So don't just pray once, pray twice and 3 times, regularly, daily. Seek Him constantly. And the second is to read your Bible. The primary way that God speaks to us is through His Word. And I have found that many of my prayers have been answered while connecting with Jesus through His Word. God has a plan for your life, and it's different than mine, and that's okay. But to live a life full of what God has for you, you have to get close with Him, and then just watch what He does.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Thought in 3. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with everything happening at The Journey.